Hello, Army of Light, Earth Division, the boots on the ground at Shawna L. Francis. Today is May 30th, 2023. Thanks for joining me for today's weekly briefing. As always, it's been a busy week, lots going on, and I just want to say that I'm so glad that you're here. There'd be no point to making videos and sharing my story without people like you to be here to receive these transmissions, to go along on this journey with me. Um, Frankly, it's a journey that we're all going on. We are all one. We are a collective here. We are a community of beings who have been assembled from beyond the veil to do this light work. So I'm just ecstatic about this. It makes the journey so much more meaningful to know that I am on this path with all of you. We're doing this together. Thanks, team. I love you so much. Um, Again, this last week, I got back from Mexico. I'm acclimating back into Portland. And it's been a little intense. I'm tired. It's been draining, just even running around and hitting the grocery store. And I had a doctor's appointment today. And um, the sun's been shining. And so I got out a power washer and power washed this upper deck here at my floating home. So I've been burning the candle at both ends and just kind of slammed into this more frenetic energy. It's very different from the casitas in Baja, Mexico. As you can imagine, I was there for 7 weeks, almost 8 weeks down in Mexico. So coming back, feeling my legs underneath me again. Also, still working with Melchizedek on this consciousness expansion. We're making excellent progress even today, new territory. And I'm actually quite excited to share with you everything that went on this last week. And again, like we've talked about the last couple of weeks, I'm definitely in new territory here. We're talking about timeline adjustments, things that I don't quite understand, but when I'm in the moment and I'm doing the work with them, it all completely seems to make sense. It's afterwards, I'm like, what just happened? What did we just do? But more and more, I'm trusting and feeling so grateful for this path and this ability to work with such highly evolved beings who want nothing but the absolute best for all of us, helping all of us light workers here on the planet wake up to our gifts, step into these roles, acclimate to this idea of unconditional love. It's something that we are needing to learn. This isn't coming natural for all of us here, especially on Earth with everything that's been going on here. So I know that you all know firsthand that this path is not easy. If you're feeling alone and need some support, I'm available. Reach out to me through my contact form on my website, shawnalfrancis.com, and let's connect. I don't want any of you to feel like you are just floating out there all by yourself, trying to make a go at this. And I know people in most of the states here. I know people from around the world, and maybe there's some connections that I can help you make. So please don't be feeling, as though you are floating all by yourself. I'm here, okay? Let me know if I can support you through your journey. Okay. So, worked with, actually, Saint Germain came in on the airplane. The first time I ever channeled Saint Germain was on the airplane flying back and forth to Mexico. This is his favorite time to come in. I get like a little knock on the door. Hey, it's Saint Germain. Can we talk? And always I'm sitting down and I don't have my laptop. So I'm like, okay, give me a moment. And I wait. And then I get my laptop out and I just type everything as it comes. And he was just checking in. He's quite delightful, actually, and has just a sweet sense of humor. So, big thing for he was just really checking in to see how I was doing. He says, "You're going through a lot, so I just know that I'm here for you." I said, "Thank you so much." I said, "Well, my biggest thing right now is just this astral projection, this idea of my essence leaving my body." I said, "We're working at this, and I'm getting it, but this is one of these things I'm struggling with." And he says, "Ah, yes, the astral projection." He says, "I worked with this concept quite a bit when I was alive on Earth. okay, dear one, here's the best advice that I can give you. Just remain absolutely calm. Your team knows what they are doing. They will assist you. Be absolutely at peace and relaxed, letting go and allowing. Not so much as trying as allowing. Tell yourself, this is easy. I do it all the time. And you do, dear one, in your sleep time. So that's the truth for, I'd say, most of us here on the planet who are light workers. We're busy in our sleep time. There may be times you wake up and you're like, yeah, I didn't feel like I slept, but I was in bed for 9 hours. I think we're doing a lot of work in our dream time. And I do think that we leave our bodies and there's all kinds of things going on. I feel like for me personally, a lot of the communication between my higher self and Melchizedek happens while I'm sleeping. So part of me, my essence leaves, they talk, they coordinate next steps, more of the minutia, the day-to-day stuff, and come back, and then somehow that integrates during the awake time. And I said, okay, what about these timeline adjustments, Saint Germain? I'm really having a hard time. It just feels so unreal and so bizarre. And as I've mentioned to you guys before, I've always just had an issue with understanding that time is an illusion, how different timelines work. I think some of you have a much better grasp on this than I do. Um, I, I said, is there anything you can offer there for my understanding? And he's like, yes, Shawna, I agree with you. How could you possibly understand this type of thing from where you sit? It's nearly an impossible ask. So they don't just ask you to try to understand this from your perspective. They simply ask you to trust. So they're not asking me to understand it. They're asking me to trust, which I do. They have you fully protected, supported, and doing the work that you set out to do to help with the ascension. You are well cared for, darling. Yeah, so again, team, and this is true of any of us, we've had these plans in place for a long time before we incarnated. We sat down with our teams, we decided what we were going to try to do in this lifetime, and then we get to kind of wake up to that and we get to experience everything that we wanted to experience. And being a light worker here for the ascension is a big part of why we came here, if not the most important reason why we came down. We had other things going on as well. I know I certainly did. So our guides help to be that liaison between our higher selves who help formulate this plan and our lower selves here and in the 3D working the plan. Okay. All right. So I said, thank you for that. I said, this is just, I said, I've also been really emotional, so much to understand here with the bigger picture, the black cube technology, the timeline changes, the murders, the trapped souls, the astral travel. I said, I love it, but it's a lot. And they said, yeah, he said, very much to take in, never a dull moment. He says, what I can say to you now in this particular moment, Shawna, is that this is just the beginning of your next phase, and more mind-boggling things will continue to happen in your world. It's the tip of the iceberg, Shawna. You're getting into the good stuff. I'm getting into the good stuff. I said, I can feel that. Says, what I would say, Shawna, is trust yourself, trust your team. Unconditional love for yourself, Shawna, and a deep knowing of your resilience, your training, your competency. You are fully equipped to travel this journey all the way to the end and beyond, being a beacon and a role model for those who know you. Be at peace with this path that you have chosen, Shawna. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on here. Let me see. So really, this is all still about Antarctica. I'm going to get into Antarctica here, but before I do that, Melchizedek did come through a few days ago and with an update on the galactic war. We just talked about it briefly. They say that Racer, Manted, and Max are doing well. They're just focused, so they're doing okay. But they said that they thought that we were entering kind of the final last stages of this war, where it's going to be the most intense fighting that's ever been, as part of this stage of this war. So the final last battles of this war happening. I don't really know what that means in terms of timeline for that, how long that might take, but it did seem significant enough for Melchizedek to mention it. So interesting there. All right, Antarctica. It really seems to be the seat of the negative reptilian evil here on the planet. And there's just so much going on. And I'm going to need a lot more runway to try to summarize what I've read about Antarctica and everything that's going on. I'm going to try to get that next week. I mean, there's plenty that you can do online if this interests you. One thing I wanted to talk about that I did find fascinating here. Admiral Byrd, Richard Byrd, Byrd, a Navy officer. Operation High Jump. If you haven't looked into this or come across this, you may want to. Um, Admiral Byrd, he assembled like 4,000 men and all this machinery, and they were going to go down there for like 18 months or a couple of years. They ended up turning around and coming home after like 6 months. And I'm sorry in advance, I probably don't have these facts right, so take this kind of as general concepts. Okay, General Byrd. So he he we don't exactly know why they turned around and came home early. There's been, official statements out there, but what Admiral Byrd did was he kept a journal. He came back and he debriefed all the commanding officers and even the president of what had happened to him and his crew during that time in Antarctica. And he was told that all of that was completely classified and he could not share it. But he had a journal that his son found, and his son is doing everything he can to get this journal published. Just a few things out of Admiral Byrd's journal, and there's a lot more here. But he came across a big hole in the ice. He flew into this thing with an airplane, and very quickly he lost control of the plane, and it was just being controlled by some other force. It comes in and it lands. They get out, and he meets a being from what he's calling the Ariani species. And I think these are Nordic type beings, okay? Loving, loving beings. And this being had a lot to say to Admiral Byrd. And some of this I'm sure you've heard before, the ideas of this. This being told Admiral Byrd that we have, as humanity, reached a new point, a point of no return as a species. They said here, there are those among you who would destroy your very world rather than relinquish the power over it. Does that sound familiar? Now, they never said negative reptilians back in the day, but of course now we know this is exactly the type of force they're talking about. They said to Admiral Byrd, there will be no answers in your armies. There will be no safety in your science. Darkness will rage on until all things are leveled. Go and tell your species this. So here this beautiful being, had these warnings for humanity, but Byrd was sworn to secrecy and all this was kept classified. And I want to say this encounter happened around 1947, and I believe he died around 1957, 1958. And he never was around to see this information make it to the light of day, but his son, like I said, is trying to make that happen. This being from the Ariani race said that in 1945, they reached out to all kinds of leaders here on the planet. And of course, this is all related to our use of nuclear bombs. The atomic bomb changed everything in terms of getting attention here on the planet, to humanity. We're playing with things that we should not be playing with. Don't have the consciousness and the ability to really understand the far-reaching impacts of dropping an atomic bomb. That's when we really got their attention. But supposedly, again, this race is down there in Antarctica, a benevolent, loving, highly advanced race of beings also in Antarctica. So I'm finding this really fascinating, and I haven't had a chance to really dig into this much more, but we've got the negative ETs and all this going on down there. Then we've got this other race, and there could be other races besides the Ariani there as well. There's a lot going on in Antarctica, to say the least. Okay, so again, beautiful energy work with Melchizedek. I've been really busy the last 7 days, but I did try to spend at least a few hours a day with them. Really, things started heating up on Saturday. Okay, so bear with me, guys. I've got, excuse me, it was 2,700 words exchanged just on Saturday. So I'm going to try to skip through my transcript here. Okay. So as I said, we're making progress with this out-of-body idea. And what happened on Saturday is I'm getting very, very deep into this meditation. It's very much feeling like a trance. And at a certain point, it's a couple hours in at this point, I begin to see what looks like white snow. And this just became more and more in my focus. And at some point, I was able to just float right through the snow and into this huge cavern, And okay, I'm not recording any of this in the moment. I went through this whole thing. It took like an hour. And after the fact, I recorded everything that I had experienced. So bear with me here as I kind of recreate this whole thing. All right, so I'm seeing snow. I float through the snow and it opens into this huge expanse. And now I'm seeing a flying saucer, a disc that is stationary on the ground, and it's cement and concrete, and there's lights, but I'm seeing this very much alien looking ship. Again, this could be German in nature, it could be some other countries that may not be actually extraterrestrial in nature. If you learn more about what's going on in Antarctica, they're building all kinds of ships down there and have been since World War II. Okay, so I'm seeing this interesting looking ship. And I'm not saying that it's even that big. It was, I'm going to say, could it hold 4 or 5 beings or something? So it wasn't massive. I'm also seeing a reptilian kind of on the ground with a weapon, kind of keeping an eye on things like security. And I'm realizing that I am in this massive, well, later Melchizedek said, join us in this hangar. So they called it a hangar. And I did. I got a good look around, and I'm seeing all kinds of craft, and there are other reptilian beings. Again, they look like they're doing security detail. So immediately my initial instinct was to send all those reptilians love. So I got in that hangar and I just was like, oh, there's beings here. And so I'm just like opening my heart to them, sending them love, not really knowing what I'm doing there. And Melchizedek said to me, okay, Shawna, from this place, let's just fill this entire hangar with love. All right, team. And so we've done this before. We've talked. We've done meditations for Antarctica, meditations for the Middle East, all this kind of good stuff where we are just filling up areas with high vibrational light. So that's exactly what Melchizedek asked me to do. So I just, with everything that I could muster, I just visualized this entire area, and I felt it too, just fill with love, fill with light. And this is including all the ships, all the beings who are there, just blanketing this whole area, just soaking it in love. And I got a sense for one of the reptilians talking to another saying, "Hey, are you feeling something strange here?" And the other one answering, "Yeah, I do. Something strange." So they were kind of just tuning in. Again, they're super adept at energy and manipulating of energy themselves. They're super tuned in to frequencies. All right, so then at that point, Melchizedek asked me to actually turn it up even further. Can we raise that vibration even further? And so again, I just gave it everything I had. Um, at that point, the reptilians were like, okay, there's something really strange going on here. And one of them took off to go report this to their higher up. Or I can't remember if they, he spoke into something or what, but the higher ups were alerted to this presence, this vibrational presence. And what came back was, let's get rid of that energy. So they tried to counterbalance my high vibration energy with their energy, and I didn't feel anything, but what did start to happen is it felt electric, like crackling electricity in the air. Just and I could almost see like these tendrils of lightning kind of filling up this hangar. So it was something very interesting going on, and just this crackling of energy. I don't know if that was my energy melding with their energy, or if Melchizedek stepped in and were trying to help raise the frequency even further. Um, it was quite breathtaking actually, and it was feeling very energizing for me. Actually, it was an awe-inspiring feeling. All right, so I want to say that whole thing took probably 20 minutes or so. What I just explained to you. I felt myself kind of coming back into my body, and I took a few deep breaths, and I kind of acclimated back to my living room. And it wasn't 30 seconds later, and I felt my energy go deep again. I'm like, woo. And I heard Melchizedek say, okay, we're on to the next thing. So it's like once I reach this certain level of consciousness, these timeline adjustments start kicking in, and they want to, I think, take advantage of when I'm in these trance states to be able to do this. And I'm talking with my friends here too, who do similar type of work. I think there's a lot of things going on here. I think we as humans are being asked to step up and actually do more of the actual heavy lifting or do more of the work as we're feeling like we can, like we're knowing that this is a possibility for ourselves. We're understanding that we do actually make a difference. So it's just like the self confidence there. I think they've all often said this is not a rescue mission. Um, Sorry, I just want to make sure my new microphone was working. It's not a rescue mission. We need to put some skin in the game here. Also, third thing is, I think it's also just really incredibly important that there are those of us on the earth plane who can anchor this vibration here. So I think that Melchizedek could have done all of that, but I think for these reasons, it's important that we as humans are also doing this kind of work. And it's new to me, guys. I mean, this is really out there, especially this next thing that happened. So 30 seconds later, I'm back, getting back into this trance state. I I start to see water. Like my vision is right at sea level. There's water and it's undulating and it's kind of dark and gray and just lots and lots of bubbles. I'm like, woo, okay. And Melchizedek said, Shawna, allow your senses to acclimate, which I did. So imagine if you had a GoPro and you were recording something right below the surface of water. So this is kind of where my consciousness came in. Then I felt like I was actually in my body and I was standing on like the hull of a ship of some kind or a submarine that was just a few feet under the water. And I'm trying not to like panic or anything, but it was a strange feeling. And again, Melchizedek is, Shawna, just acclimate, just acclimate. And then I get a very clear audio that this is a German U-boat. And I have just barely seen these things in the little bit of research that I've been doing on Antarctica. So I'm in the middle of this, not completely understanding what a U-boat is, but that's what Melchizedek had said. I'm on a German U-boat. I'm outside of one, and it's just below the surface. So I came to know later that these things can submerge and they could be underwater for like up to 2 hours or something. I didn't really know that. I was thinking I was just standing on a submarine. This is a U-boat. All right. So I just kind of hung out there for a little bit, and then I kind of got my bearings. And Melchizedek said, Shawna, we want you to go inside this boat. Excuse me. We want you to go inside this vessel. So I'm like, okay. So I could see like an area here where the captain's quarters would be, the control center. There were little porthole windows. So I went there with my consciousness and I went inside. I did just kind of just went inside this thing and I got to look around. It was actually a lot quieter inside that little room than I would have expected. Just a little bit of a whir of an engine. There were some beeps and some noises from the machinery in there, and a handful of men. And I could see kind of the glow of the radars kind of on their faces, but it was quiet in there. It was tranquil. It was bizarre. um, and Melchizedek said, okay, Shawna, send love to here, raise your vibration again. So I did. I did that same exact thing I'd just done in the hangar 10 minutes earlier. I am just sending these guys love. I'm enveloping this boat in love. I see my wings come out and they're pink and they're etheric, and just giving these guys love. And I see the one guy lean over to another one and say, are you feeling something odd? And the one's like, yes. And they said, this feels like God. This feels like God, is what they had said. And they're probably speaking in German, but this is all telepathic. I'm getting the idea here of what they're saying. I got, I got the sense that at least a couple of them could actually kind of see me or feel my presence as an angel, like through their third eyes. Like they were kind of tripping out on this, and they had also said, well, this feels really nice. So they weren't afraid at all. They were feeling all this love. They were feeling what they thought to be a God presence. All right, so that was about a 15-20 minute experience. I kind of came back to myself, back to my body after that was done. And Melchizedek said, basically, I turned back on my phone and I just went through everything I had just experienced. And here's what Melchizedek had to say. Shawna, just imagine that this energy is like an elixir for all of creation, all of the energy fields where you are setting an intention to increase the vibration. So the hangar and the beings and all the machinery there, the vehicles, the vessels, raising of vibration. Shawna, it changes the entire field of that level of consciousness, which means that that work is able to affect thought form, with the idea that you're helping to bring clarity. It's a waking up, if you will, a gentle, sweet awakening, a lifting of spirit, breathing fresh oxygen into their lungs, energizing their fields, similar to a sound bath, Shawna, that would envelop your entire body with vibration. It's the same idea, they said. The metaphor of a sound bath will help you understand what you're doing in these moments with these intentions. I said, okay. They said, Shawna, the hangar was in Antarctica, and the linear timeline that you entered was modern day, and that was impactful. I said, okay, thank you, team. I said, what about this other situation? I said, did I get that right? Was that a German U-boat? And they said, yes, Shawna, that's correct. They said, these men were on a mission, a very critical one, and they needed some clarity. Again, Shawna, you are gently laying the foundation for a lifted spirit, calm, peace, love, and connectedness, a connection to source. Because of the work you were able to do in that field, those men will make a better decision for all of humanity. Another timeline adjustment, Shawna. I said, thank you, Melchizedek. I said to Melchizedek, I was getting a sense of a nuclear warhead or something really awful that could have happened with that boat. I said, but aren't they getting clear instructions from their higher ups or their superiors? So I may have given them a sense of love, but aren't they just following orders? And I said, what time frame was that? And they said, Shawna, this was what you may consider to be a rogue installation for the German military, not so much connected to the typical hierarchical military, but more acting on their own accord. The time, 1955. And they don't pull the trigger, Shawna. They don't pull the trigger when they could have. I said, okay. I said, team, can you tell me a little bit more about how this works? That timeline, okay, we made an adjustment there where they could have pulled the trigger, but they didn't. I said, so is there some way, like an hour ago before we started this, had there been that destruction, or did we just avoid it altogether in this particular timeline? And and they said, Shawna, let us just say that this was a reversing of a catastrophe that did happen in another timeline, dear one. I said, so team, does that mean that these timelines, like this timeline and that timeline, are now converging, and then that possibility of that destruction goes away for this timeline? And they said, not quite as you stated, Shawna, but it's close to the idea. Again, this was a significant timeline adjustment, and we thank you for trusting us and focusing your attention to this intention. You did a wonderful job. I said, thank you, Melchizedek. Oh my goodness, let me see here. I had just asked them again, like I said, so these timeline adjustments and the work we just did, I said, is that the out-of-body experience that I'm working toward, or is that something different? And they said, Shawna, it's the same concept, but you'll go deeper and deeper into these out-of-body experiences as we go. Right now, these are targeted for specific timeline adjustments that we're making. Please believe in yourself and trust yourself and believe in us and our abilities to guide you through this passage. I said, all right. And today, guys, oh my goodness, I had an incredible experience. Okay, let me find this one for Saturday for today. Okay. Okay, it was another one of these. I sit down, I set the intention to, do this work with Melchizedek, and it takes some time. And I was about an hour into this meditation. It's really more than meditation. We are actively doing energy work together, again, to help deepen my connection to them, this expansion of consciousness, this out of body type stuff. So today, I had this epiphany that I could still feel my body and my breathing and everything going around me here physically, while also being out of my body consciously. My consciousness could be out of my body, but still I could be in tune with my body. So I think up to this point today, I was thinking that it was almost like sleep time. I'd leave my body and forget about my body, not feel my body or my thoughts or anything like that. So that was kind of what I was going for. But I had the realization today that no, I can do both. I can be out of my body and still be attached to this body, still understand what's going on here physically for me. So that was really, I think, an important shift in my awareness on the work that we're trying to do. Um, so once that realization happened, I was able to kind of let go of my expectation of that around that and really just let my consciousness go where it wanted to go. I decided this week too that I would spark up my Merkaba. And if you don't know what a Merkaba is, I highly recommend that you look it up. This is the double tetrahedron. Archangel Metatron is the one who kind of helped bring my awareness to the Merkaba, spinning it in opposite directions. It's kind of technical in nature, but to do that, it allows you to travel. So I've been using that as a tool, and it has also, I think, helped me disconnect and kind of get into that space. And there was a point today where I just felt such peace, such connection to Melchizedek, and just beyond Melchizedek, just like this beautiful, heart opening oneness, this peace that is beyond all thought, and just so loved, just feeling so loved. And it was just this gorgeous, gorgeous feeling today. So definitely, feeling myself drift further away from this reality, deeper into that reality, relaxing with the body and whatever was happening with that, and just allowing. There was a certain point today where I saw the Grand Central Sun and I could feel that energy emanating like I was part of it. I could see nebula and stars and galaxies and just floating out there, and just this love, this just expansion of love. Um, and there was a point where I'm hearing Melchizedek say, "We have come, we have come, we have come." So if you read any of the Paul Selig books, you know what I'm talking about there. That's an affirmation that we say quite a bit. I have come, I have come, I have come. We are here. And at a certain point after about an hour of this deep work with them, Melchizedek said, "We'd like to take you someplace." I said, "Okay." And I allowed myself to be kind of led to this swirling black vortex. And I came to know that this was that black cube technology deep in Antarctica, the same technology or consciousness that had held part of my essence here until we released it a couple of weeks ago. So I'm like into the belly of the beast here with this. So we have visited kind of the this consciousness, this container, and I'm seeing it as just this black swirling vortex. Melchizedek had said, yes, all the souls and the soul aspects or the essences of souls that wanted to leave have left, who are able and willing to leave have left, but this program, this black cube technology, is still in operation. It's still operating. So, the question that came into my awareness is, what do we want to do with this program? Do we want to dismantle it? How do we do that? And I had this idea of using crystals. So like bringing crystals directly into this vortex and kind of disrupting it. But really what happened is the crystals, in my mind anyway, turned to crystal dust. It kind of was more like crystal sand, and mixing that sand within the swirl. And I was seeing it glow and lighten things up. So imagine white crystals in the swirling along with this black, gross, darkness. Well, at that point, I'd sensed that this thing got angry and it started folding in on itself, and it was no longer a vortex. It was like this swirling mass of putrid energy, and just dispelling this white light and getting rid of this crystal that we had infused into it. So it was just like this gnarly reaction that this thing had to that intention. So kind of coming back out, I had said to Melchizedek, what if we could reverse the polarity of this thing and actually Like instead of having it be negative, a negative dark thing, make it a light, bring it into the light, actually have it be working for the light, reverse the polarity somehow. I said, is that even, so is that even possible? And I decided at that moment to see if I could connect with Cryon. And I was channeling Cryon quite a bit last year with Melchizedek for the daily ascension updates. If you haven't seen any of those, I did, oh, how many of them, guys? 100 of them? I'm not sure if it was quite that much. I'll have to go and look. So Cryon did come through. I said, Cryon, can we reverse the magnetics or the poles here or something so we can change it for a force for negative to a force for good, a force for high vibration? Can we reverse this? And Cryon said that he said this is possible, but it would have a devastating impact on the planet to reverse the poles like that here. And he showed me major earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. He said there'd be a major loss of life. So I said, okay, well, let's not do that then. I said, what if we change the polarity of this very, very slowly, just enough to keep it kind of, not being cataclysmic, but to keep it moving in the direction of going to a higher and higher and higher vibration. And, the idea here is that we're changing this black cube technology to a force for good. And I was starting to think of this as the white cube. Okay, let's make this a white cube technology to be owned by the light, to be a force for good, drawing in this energy from the earth and from the sun and emanating out high vibration instead of it emanating out dark, low vibration. So Cryon said yes, that we could do this. And I said, well, let's let it be so. So at that point, oh my gosh, like I just felt my energy clamp down and just like I was just like, I don't know, in this frozen state energetically. And they said, hold still, Shawna, while we solidify this intention and we imprint this program, he said. I don't really know exactly what that meant, but it's like imagine holding the grid, creating a template of some kind, and holding this intention energetically. And literally, I could not even hardly breathe energetically. I was so locked in. The first time I'd really felt it that strong. So I was frozen. They said, Shawna, please be still. Don't talk. Don't breathe. And then it was released. And then I started crying, just the tears for going through such an incredible thing. And just the idea that we'd be able to disarm this and not only disarm and dismantle it, but repurpose this technology for good. And the idea that this could actually be real. um, I just, so I also put out an invitation to any other higher dimensional beings that are in Antarctica specifically, like this Ariani that Admiral Byrd had spoken of, like the Nordics. If anybody there who's already down in that area could also help infuse this cube, make it a white cube technology, infuse it with love and light. So I did that. I put that call out there. Oh, and I just slowly came back. I was feeling super like rummy when I came back, almost like intoxicated. It took me some time to get my faculties back. And I heard, Shawna, how are you feeling? And that was Melchizedek. I said, I'm ecstatic. I said, I'm so honored and I'm so humbled. My heart just feels like it's bursting. I'm like, what did we do? Was this real? Did that actually happen? And they said, Shawna, please take it to heart that everything that just happened in your experience was real. Take it to heart that the work you just did will make a huge impact on the light's ability to infiltrate the dark forces. Again, team, I feel like we as light workers are going to be asked to be doing more and more of this because we are here on the planet, we can anchor this light. We are acting on behalf of humanity here. We are putting some skin in the game, right? We are helping to to drive this light frequency here, to help increase this frequency. And we're doing that every day. It's getting a little bit more bizarre, isn't it? Okay. They said, we're now the closest we've ever been, dear one. Lock and key moment. New treasures and gifts bestowed upon all of humanity with these new developments, because all are one. This is a basic truth of existence. They said here, our conscious coupling with you allows for a greater connection to the collective for the highest good of all of humanity. Shawna, please have faith and trust and be at peace with yourself and this process. Trust what's going on and be open to the flow of where your consciousness would like to take you next. Because now we are working as a team even more fully than ever before. Soon this will become second nature to you, an ease and a flow. And while there will be hard times ahead, much to maneuver as this is a reckoning, know that we as your brethren are within you at all times and all situations. None of this will you have to experience alone. And here's the closing words from today. We invite each of you to take solace in knowing that great forces of change are working upon this plane of existence, and you, my friends, are contributing in significant ways. As mentioned before, without you and without the work you do today, there would be no subsequent phases of this ascension. Our hearts are aligned with yours. Our intentions are aligned with yours. Together, we bring balance to a place that has been so far out of balance for so long that the idea of balance has nearly been lost. All right, I said thank you, Melchizedek. Okay, team, this is a long video. If you've made it this far, you are a trooper, and I appreciate you so much. Okay, team, I'm going to let you go. I love you. I hope you're doing well. I will see you next week, if not sooner. Mwah.